Welcome back to Face the Nation. I'm John Dickerson. We're back with our panel. Ruth Marcus is a columnist for The Washington Post. Michael Scherer is the Washington bureau chief for Time magazine and wrote the cover story on Donald Trump for this week's magazine. And Gearan covers the Hillary Clinton campaign for the Post. And Manu Raju covers the campaign for Politico. Manu, I want to start with you. You've covered immigration wars on the Hill. When Donald Trump talked about the good people who are here illegally coming back in, won't that be seen as amnesty in some?
I think that will give an opening to some of the folks who are trying to get noticed in this debate. What was interesting, too, was how Ted Cruz is trying to show himself as the immigration hardliner in this, as Donald Trump has really dominated the debate on immigration. You heard Ted Cruz talk about his legislation that he introduced, things that actually sound a lot like the Donald Trump plan, but Donald Trump has been dominating the narrative on immigration, and it shows just how much Ted Cruz has been hurt by Donald Trump in this debate, in this race. I mean, a lot of those Tea Party supporters, those folks who are evangelicals, who should support Ted Cruz, are flocking to Donald Trump. So you're seeing all these candidates recalibrate their positions based on what Donald Trump has been saying on the campaign trail, and immigration is one of those issues.
It does seem like Trump's trying to catch those supporters on the rebound, potentially. In that recalibration, Michael, that Manu talks about, who is taking advantage of the Trump immigration moment? Was there another candidate who grabbed it and said, here, I can seize the limelight?
Rick Santorum did, but it's hard to say he's really taking advantage of much. He's at 1% of the polls. I mean, we're at a stage right now in this race where almost the posture matters more than the substance of what you're putting out. And clearly on immigration, Trump is winning it. He's coming across as the toughest. He's saying things like, we're going to move them all out, a totally unrealistic plan. I mean, if you go back to 2012, Trump was actually quoted saying that Mitt Romney's plan to self-deport America's undocumented immigrants was crazy. Now he's saying we're going to do it and I'll handle it because I can manage things. It's all pose. And it's winning for him because he's selling something to the Republican Party right now, which isn't as much about policy or ideology. It's about, I am the guy who will actually get stuff done. I'm not corrupted like the rest of the political elite, and I'm a fighter.
And Jeb Bush tried to get in the conversation this week a little bit. He's the one, he got a little testy when he was asked about this notion of anchor babies and him using that term for people born to the parents of undocumented immigrants. Where's Jeb Bush in this conversation now?
Well, Jeb Bush appeared to me to be trying very hard to attack Donald Trump in a way that he hasn't done really until now, because he didn't think he had to. He didn't think that Trump was going to last past the summer and be the kind of force that he is now, dragging, certainly the immigration is maybe the most salient example right now, but dragging the whole field either to the right or sort of along with him. And Jeb Bush appeared to think that was demagoguery and he didn't want to have to engage in it. But you saw him do it this week, which suggests that he's a good bit more worried, as his poll numbers would suggest that he should be, about the Trump factor.
What's your sense of how? Go ahead, jump in.
Well, he did it this week, but he did it without rejecting the use of the term anchor babies. And let me just say that a week in which the Republican Party is talking about anchor babies and what to do about them and talking about repealing birthright citizenship is not long-term a good week for the Republican Party. And one other really quick point. I think that it's dangerous for the Republican Party, but there's a very interesting opening for Trump's would-be competitors on the right with this argument about the good people, because now it seems like we're going to have this, it's a nice door, but it's a kind of Trump revolving door where you spend an enormous amount of money to get the good people, to get everybody out and break up families. Then you get the good people back in, which is internally inconsistent with his argument that we need everybody out because they're taking wages and jobs away from the good people already here who are American citizens. So it makes no
totally
sense.
Unworkable, right?
Opening on the right, long-term problem for the Republican Party.
And I would also add, Jeb is really trying to become the Trump alternative in this race. He's clearly, that's why he's taking that tougher line to Trump. And they realize, the Jeb people realize that Trump is probably here to stay. So they need to show some variance between him and Trump and show that he can actually be an electable alternative.
Michael, you were in his office. He brought a bald eagle along. He seems to be, he's here to stay, as Manu says, but he's also having fun. I mean, he's here to stay because he's having fun.
He is. And you remember Jeb Bush came into this race saying, I would be the joyful candidate. There's no joy in Jeb Bush right now. And what Trump has shown is that the other candidates have yet to find their voice. Jeb is struggling to be tough, to stand up to Trump without being angry. Scott Walker, you saw over the last week, really struggling to come up with any answer on immigration that had details in it, that made sense. He's running as the bold, courageous conservative who took on the unions, but he can't answer basic questions on the trail, so it's hurting his message. I think you can say a lot of things about Trump, and many of them are true, but you can't say that he doesn't know who he is and what his act is. And so when he goes on TV, when he gives, an off-the-cuff hour-long speech before 20,000 people, he knows exactly who he is, and voters pick up on that.
And he's not going any place while his ratings are as good as they are. He's all about the ratings, and they're terrific. So like a lot of people, and I'm here to say I was wrong, I thought Donald Trump was going to self-destruct. He is not going to self-destruct. Somebody like Jeb Bush or somebody is going to have to help destroy him. But the interesting piece that shows that he is in fact destroyable was in, I think it was a CNN poll. 58% thought someone of voters, and I think it was Republican voters, thought Donald Trump the Republican Party did not have as good a chance with Donald Trump to take back the White House. Only 30% thought he represented the best chance to take back the White House. So the question is, this infatuation is going to last past the summer, but when voters really have to get serious and start thinking about a third Democratic term, is Donald Trump really going to be where they settle?
And if when other Republican candidates drop out of the race, like later in the primary season, that's when some will be questioned: will those voters flock to Trump, or will they flock to Walker or Jeb or whoever else is in the race?
We haven't seen attack ads against Republicans. We haven't, Republican attack ads against Donald Trump. We haven't seen, them really start to say, we got to get rid of this guy because it's, messing up the race. But that could happen.
With super PACs, that winnowing process could take a lot longer than we're used to.
And with the election calendar. I would just say that if you look at the last month and a half, Trump, we're in an age of free media right now. No one's spending a lot of money on TV. And Trump dominates. I mean, he's just on TV all day, every day. You can't miss him. And the other candidates have been pushed aside. And that will change. I mean, Jeb has $100 million to start, to spend on TV, in these early states. A lot of the other candidates, Cruz has $50 million. I mean, this is significant money. Even Perry has millions of dollars in the bank.
Well,
and that shows just how long of a race this is going to be.
And
I mean, it's not just going to be Iowa,
money,
New Hampshire, South Carolina, go past Super
when
Tuesday.
people can write you $5 million checks or $10 million checks, Trump at 25% could be beaten by someone else who was at a greater percent, but when you've got this fractured field and the capacity to stay there for a long time, that's where the party could really have a problem. And for the first time, I can imagine Trump winning the nomination.
Winning the nomination. And I want to switch to the other party and talk about Hillary Clinton, who you cover. Not another good week for her on the email and server question. Walk us through why that was the case.
Well, they have been trying to put this to rest as much as is possible. The campaign does know that this is an issue that's going to stick with her for months, well into the 2016 calendar. The way the emails are being released by the State Department and the way the Republicans are using it guarantees that. What they've been trying to do is not get in the way. And this was another week in which what she said herself seemed to get in the way. She had a short press conference, which didn't really win her a lot of great reviews the other day, where she got quite angry, visibly irritated at questions about the email issue. And then the campaign spent the rest of the week trying to put out their version of events, which continued all the way into Saturday. The campaign had a press conference for beat reporters on Friday afternoon by telephone. Anything you want to, know and ask before the weekend, we're here to clear it up. Helpful, maybe, but they clearly didn't think they'd get the job done, because all day yesterday there was a tweet barrage of giving their version.
Ruth, when I was calling around about the Biden question and whether he's going to get into the race yesterday, somebody who's talked to him sort of felt like the mishandling for another week from Hillary Clinton created a new opportunity for Joe Biden. Do you see it that way?
Absolutely. That's why we are reading all of this Biden chatter and hearing all the Biden chatter. he's clearly trying to let this play out as long as possible to watch what happens to Hillary Clinton. Look, Joe Biden has wanted to be president and has been running for president since Hillary Clinton was First Lady of Arkansas. Does he want to run? Yes. He's looking at not whether he thinks he can win the general election, but whether he thinks at this point he can win the nomination. I think in the end that he will conclude that he can't at this point,
that he cannot,
and won't run. And I am not imagining that Senator Warren is going to go endorse Joe Biden right now, who voted for the bankruptcy bill that was her bête noire back when she was a Harvard law professor.
Michael, do you think he runs?
I think we know right now he is doing everything he would be doing if he intended to run. So he can always
totally agree.
He can pull the plug. And we also know about Joe Biden that he has never stopped swimming forward. It's like I say about a shark, right? He always goes forward, and it would be a huge decision for him. I mean, it's a decision not just about not running, but basically stepping out with many years left in his life from the game that has been his life. And I think it would be a very difficult decision. And I think the cost for him of getting in the race, seeing how it goes, maybe he takes off, maybe he doesn't take off, is not that great considering the alternative. So I'm not as confident as you that he'll stay.
I think the question is going to be what is Joe Biden's lane in the Democratic primary? I mean, you have Bernie Sanders getting a lot of support from the left, and Hillary Clinton has her own lane trying to have a more diverse coalition. Can Biden pull enough support from the Hillary faction as well as the Bernie faction?
I've got to wrap here. We'll be back in a minute.